On Thursday morning, like many of you, I woke up to some absolutely wild news. In fact, this is probably the biggest news of the decade. It's crazier than Top Thrill 2, the announcement of Epic Universe, and frankly, any other huge industry event. This single announcement that got released on Thursday morning is gonna rock this industry to the core. And what is this news? Well, Cedar Fair and Six Flags are merging. The two companies who specialize in regional parks have merged, and boy oh boy, there's a lot to talk about, such as will Intamin work with Cedar Fair again? Will RMC work with Cedar Fair again? What does this mean for the future of California's Great America? How will annual passes work? And a lot of these questions still come down to speculation, and we will do that in this video. But before we talk about speculation, there's a ton of information to cover. We have two massive press releases to read through, and we have two earnings calls that conveniently happen the same day of the announcement. I'll try and deliver the information the best I can because the investor reports are not easy to read through. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Six Flags and Cedar Fair merging. So first off, what does this mean for the parks? Well, every Six Flags and Cedar Fair property will now be under the same management, under the same company. On the release, they stated that the combined company will operate a portfolio of 27 amusement parks, 15 water parks, and 9 resort properties. So that's every property being consolidated under one parent company. And if the park numbers aren't adding up for you, it's because they are counting Six Flags Great Adventures Safari as a separate property. So now that we know this, let's speculate. This means that these parks all can be visited with a singular annual pass. How much this annual pass will cost, I have no idea. Now from my perspective, with a Cedar Fair Platinum Pass and a Six Flags Plus membership, I like the idea of this. As long as it's cheaper than these two combined, which would be $500 some odd, I am happy with this move. I love the idea of visiting Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm on the same pass, or taking a road trip up to California and being able to visit Discovery Kingdom and Great America on the same pass. It just sounds so nice and convenient, so that's a really big win right there in my eye. Besides the obvious fact that the parks are going to be under one company, what does this look like from the business side of things? Well, there are a lot of massive changes and I will try my best to cover them, but like I said before, there is just so much to cover. So Cedar Fair will own 51.2% of the company, meaning that they have the majority over Six Flags. Six Flags will own the other 48.8%. These are pretty arbitrary numbers that only relate to the business side of things, but it will also be the numbers when the stocks merge under the ticker FUN. I have no idea if any of you guys have invested into any of these companies, but seeing how Six Flags went on the verge of bankruptcy multiple times, I wouldn't say it was a very sound investment. On a complete side note, the earning calls for the two companies were both very promising. Six Flags had a net income of $111 million with increased attendance and increased season pass sales, and Cedar Fair is on par with how they were doing in 2022 in Q3 with a net income of $215 million. And since the companies announced the merge, Six Flags stock is up 15.5%, and Cedar Fair stock kind of did nothing. But anyways, don't take advice from me, these are just interesting numbers. A huge thing about this merge is that Cedar Fair is relocating their headquarters to Charlotte, North Carolina. Now this makes a ton of sense. Currently, Cedar Fair is headquartered in Sandusky, Ohio, which is home to none other than Cedar Point. Now this is not a great location to run a business from, it's far from any airport, let alone an interstate, so this move to Charlotte is going to be huge. Their office in Sandusky is going to remain for some other purposes, but the headquarters are in Charlotte now. And yes, Six Flags is moving from Dallas to Charlotte as well. Now who's going to lead this new office? Well, the good news is that it's not Salim Basul. Richard Zimmerman, the CEO of Cedar Fair, will take the position of CEO at the merged company. Salim Basul is being titled as executive chairman of the board of directors. So now we have a different person to blame for everything that goes wrong. Like for real though, I don't think Salim was the problem with Six Flags Parks. Sure, he did have an interesting take on the business model, but I don't think it was entirely bad. So that's really it for the business side of things. I don't want to talk about it a lot more because it gets way too confusing and that's all the info you really need to know. The next thing I want to talk about is what does this mean for the parks? Well, the main point of this merger is to help the parks from an operational standpoint and save money. Now Cedar Fair already has decent operations and that's not going to change. Six Flags on the other hand, their operations will improve greatly from this company merge. The best part about this is it will save money for both companies, so it's a win-win situation. We will talk about the negatives in a hot second. On the website, they describe it exactly as a more robust operating model and technology platform to drive improved guest experience and park efficiencies. So that sounds really cool and a huge deal for Six Flags parks. Cedar Fair will most likely stay the same, but expect major operational improvements throughout these Six Flags parks. One last small detail that you probably should know is that every coaster that is planned to be built in 2024 is 100% safe. Nothing is happening to them, so Top Thrill 2, the Wood Coaster at Great Escape, all of it, it's happening. Also, some people were saying how antitrust laws are going to go after this merge because monopolies and whatever, but like this is a very niche of a business that I don't think that's going to happen. If anything, please go after the College Board. They literally charge you $100 to take a test and then $100 to actually send your score to the colleges. God, I hate them so much. Anyways, that's the entire deal in a nutshell. Now, what are my thoughts on it? Well, I think there's a whole lot of good coming out of this and a whole ton of bad. The good is Universal Annual Pass that gets you into an insane amount of parks and better operations out of Six Flags properties, along with huge upgrades from a business standpoint that should make the corporation a lot more successful. Now these changes might take a while to be put in place, my guess is 2025, but we will see what next year has in store for us. The bad is competition. A lot of these parks get investments because of competition. It's especially prevalent when you look at competition between specific parks. Now honestly, I don't think this is as huge of a deal as people make it out to be. Sure, park rivalries make big investments happen, but that's usually on rare cases. These cases are parks that are really close to each other and from opposing companies like Magic Mountain and Knott's, and Discovery Kingdom and Great America, and like King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg, even though that is not Six Flags and Cedar Fair. But the competition doesn't drive investments entirely. A park still needs to constantly add new additions to feel fresh, and parks will get investments even without competition. I mean, look at Kings Island and Cedar Point. Those two are two Cedar Fair parks right next to each other that directly compete with each other for Columbus and other Ohio residents. Both of these parks get an insane amount of attention, and it's not like one park is neglected and the other is praised, and the same thing can be said with Six Flags Over Texas and Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Honestly, I think people make this a bigger deal than it actually is, but that's just my thoughts on this subject. So now let's speculate a couple of things. I think for sure we'll see some parks take a massive hit, and one of them is California's Great America. The future of this park was already incredibly rocky, but now that there's Discovery Kingdom under the same company only an hour away, it really looks like it's the end of Great America. The last thing they have going for them is the mayor of the county that wants the park still there. But in my eyes, unless they buy out the park for themselves and operate it themselves, I don't see a future where California's Great America gets saved. I mean, at least there will only be one Six Flags Great America parks now, so we don't get confused. The other huge point that people are super excited about is the possibility of Cedar Fair working with Intamin and RFC again, and this is still really up in the air. I have no idea what the relationships look like on a corporate level, but from an enthusiast perspective, they don't really like each other. Now that Six Flags is working with Intamin and under Cedar Fair, I do think there's a really good chance that it will happen. I do think it will really come down to what the individual park presidents want to do. So if an ex-Cedar Fair park president really hates Intamin, they will continue to be very anti-Intamin. But the possibility of this is way more plausible than ever before. I know some people were also pointing out the fact that Kingda Ka could get the Top Thrill 2 treatment, but Great Adventures park president said Kingda Ka was locked up for the next 15 to 20 years, so unless there's some freak accident, Kingda Ka is not going anywhere. So that's really all what I have to say about this topic. There's a lot of good things coming for the company, and I do think this merge is truly for the better. Honestly, I think there's more to gain from coming out of this than to lose. I mean, you are losing a few coasters with competition, and California's Great America is deader than ever before, but you have to look at the light at the end of the tunnel. You have an absolutely goated annual pass. It might cost more, but nevertheless, it's cool to have, and you get better operations. So yeah, I really like this move. At the end of the day, you don't have any control over this situation, so just look at the good things that are coming out of it. And enjoy all the memes because there's a lot and they're pretty funny. Here's my favorite ripped off straight from the Airtime Thrills Discord. Anyways, that's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. Also join the Discord, link in the description below. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.